In the quiet, tree-lined streets of Willow Creek Estates, rules weren't just suggestions, they were a way of life. The Homeowners Association, or HOA, prided itself on maintaining what they called community standards. Perfectly manicured lawns, approved paint colors, and zero tolerance for anything that might lower property values. For most residents, it was simply part of suburban living. For my family, it became something else entirely. My name is Alex Rivera. My wife, Elena, and I had moved into our 2-story colonial home 3 years earlier with our 8-year-old daughter Mia. We chose Willow Creek for its excellent schools and safe feel. What we didn't anticipate was how one resident's obsession with control would nearly turn our peaceful life upside down. Elena worked as a sergeant with the county police department. She had spent 12 years on the force, starting as a patrol officer and rising through the ranks with a reputation for fairness and calm authority. Her shifts were demanding, sometimes nights, sometimes days, but she always made time for our family. I worked from home as a freelance graphic designer, which meant I was usually the one handling daytime errands and picking up Mia from school. Then there was Karen Whitaker. Everyone in the neighborhood knew Karen. She served as the HOA president and treated the role like a full-time job. A woman in her late 50s with perfectly coiffed blonde hair and an ever-present clipboard, Karen patrolled the streets in her golf cart, notebook in hand, documenting every minor infraction. A trash can left out past pickup day, holiday lights lingering into February, even children's bikes left in driveways overnight. Nothing escaped her notice. Our first run-in with Karen came 6 months after we moved in. I had planted a small vegetable garden in the backyard. Nothing flashy, just tomatoes, peppers, and herbs. Karen showed up at our door one Saturday morning with a formal letter citing unapproved landscaping modifications. The garden was in the back, invisible from the street, but according to the bylaws she quoted verbatim, any changes to the property required prior approval. Elena handled it with her usual professionalism. She reviewed the rules, submitted the paperwork, and we received approval 2 weeks later. But Karen didn't forget. From then on, she seemed to watch our house more closely. Tensions simmered over the next couple of years. Minor complaints about our trash bins, questions about visitors parking, and once, a strongly worded email about Mia's basketball hoop that I had to take down temporarily. We tried to stay polite, but the constant scrutiny wore on us. Still, we never imagined it would escalate to what happened that rainy Thursday afternoon. It was just after 3 p.m. I had picked up Mia from school and she was upstairs doing homework. I was in my home office on a video call with a client when I heard the distinct sound of footsteps on our front porch. First, I assumed it was a delivery. Then came the unmistakable click of a key turning in the lock. Our front door swung open. I bolted from my chair and reached the foyer just as Karen Whitaker stepped inside, umbrella dripping on the hardwood floor. She wore her usual HOA polo shirt and khakis, looking as if she belonged there. "Excuse me," I said sharply. "What are you doing in my house?" Karen didn't flinch. She held up a key ring. There was a report of a possible gas leak at this address. As HOA president, I have emergency access rights under the covenants. I'm here to ensure resident safety. I stared at her in disbelief. "There's no gas leak. I would know. And you can't just let yourself in." She waved her phone. "I already called the police. They're on their way. Better to be safe than sorry." My heart pounded. Mia had come to the top of the stairs, eyes wide with confusion. I told her to stay upstairs and called out to her calmly so she wouldn't panic. "Karen, you need to leave right now," I said, keeping my voice steady but firm. "This is private property." She crossed her arms. "I'm not leaving until the authorities confirm there's no hazard. You people always think the rules don't apply to you." The situation felt surreal. Rain pattered against the windows as we stood in the foyer in an awkward standoff. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Karen noticed and smirked. "Go ahead. Film it. The board will see how uncooperative you are." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. 2 police cruisers pulled up in front of the house, lights flashing. Two officers stepped out, one male and one female, both looking professional in their uniforms. Karen immediately turned toward them as they approached the open door. "Officers, thank goodness you're here. I had to use emergency access because of a suspected gas leak. The homeowner is being difficult." The male officer, a tall man with a name tag reading Officer Ramirez, scanned the scene. "Ma'am, did you actually smell gas or see any signs of a leak?" Karen hesitated for just a moment. "Well, a neighbor reported a strange odor earlier. I took it seriously." I interjected quickly. "There was no report. No odor. She let herself in with a key and called you without any justification." Officer Ramirez looked between us. "We'll need to sort this out. Everyone stay calm." That's when Elena walked through the door. She had just finished her shift and arrived home in her police uniform. Dark navy, badge gleaming, duty belt in place. Her expression shifted from tired to alert the moment she saw the scene in her own foyer. "What's going on here?" Elena asked, her voice carrying natural authority. Karen turned toward the new arrival, ready to explain the situation to another officer. The words died in her throat. Her eyes widened as she registered Elena's face, the uniform, the sergeant's stripes on her sleeve. You live here," Karen stammered. Elena's gaze hardened. "This is my home. Sergeant Elena Rivera. And you are?" The color drained from Karen's face. The confident, clipboard-wielding president suddenly looked very small. She took an involuntary step back. Officer Ramirez cleared his throat. "Sergeant Rivera, do you know this woman?" Elena nodded slowly. "I know of her. She's the HOA president who just entered our locked home without permission." Karen started talking rapidly. "It was for safety. There was a concern about a gas leak. I was acting in the best interest of the community." Elena raised an eyebrow. "A gas leak that neither my husband nor I detected. In a house where I live and work. And you have a key to our front door. How exactly?" Karen fumbled for an explanation. "The HOA maintains master keys for emergencies. It's in the bylaws." Elena's tone remained professional but ice-cold. "Bylaws do not override state law regarding trespassing and unlawful entry. You entered a private residence without consent or verifiable emergency." The other officers exchanged glances. Officer Ramirez asked Karen for the key ring. She handed it over reluctantly. Elena turned to me and Mia, who had crept downstairs. "You two okay?" He nodded. Mia looked relieved to see her mom in uniform handling the situation. What followed was a masterclass in calm procedure. Elena stepped aside to let her colleagues handle the formalities, but her presence changed everything. Karen's bluster evaporated. She tried explaining herself multiple times, citing rules and resident complaints, but each attempt sounded weaker. The officers took statements. They examined the key Karen had used. It turned out to be a copied master key the HOA kept, something that raised further questions about privacy and security. No gas leak was found, of course. No evidence of any hazard. Karen was not arrested that day, but she was issued a warning for unlawful entry. The officers made it clear that further incidents could result in criminal charges. As they prepared to leave, Officer Ramirez gave Karen a final piece of advice. "Ma'am, I suggest you review what emergency access actually means. This doesn't look good." Karen left our house pale and silent, avoiding eye contact with any of us. The rain had eased into a drizzle as she walked to her golf cart and drove away slowly. The aftermath rippled through Willow Creek Estates. Word spread quickly, as it always does in tight-knit neighborhoods. Other residents who had felt intimidated by Karen's tactics began speaking up. Within weeks, a group of homeowners called for a special board meeting. Complaints about overreach, selective enforcement, and misuse of authority poured in. Elena and I chose not to escalate legally beyond the police report, but we did attend the meeting. Elena spoke briefly, not as a police sergeant pushing her weight around, but as a resident who valued both safety and privacy. We moved here for a sense of community, she said calmly. Not surveillance. Karen sat at the head table, looking diminished. She attempted to defend her actions, but the momentum had shifted. The board voted to limit emergency key access to verified crises only, with strict documentation requirements. Karen stepped down as president 2 months later, citing personal reasons. Life in Willow Creek slowly returned to normal, though the neighborhood felt a little freer. Our vegetable garden thrived that summer. Mia rode her bike in the driveway without fear of notes on the windshield. And Elena's uniform, once a point of tension for Karen, became a quiet symbol of protection in our home. I often think back to that rainy afternoon. What started as a shocking violation of our privacy ended up exposing deeper issues in how power is wielded in small communities. Karen wasn't a villain from a thriller movie. She was simply a person who had lost perspective, convinced that her version of order justified any means. The incident taught us something important. Rules exist to serve people, not the other way around. And sometimes, the person enforcing them most aggressively discovers that the law applies to everyone, even those who claim to uphold it. In the end, our front door stayed locked. But the trust in our neighborhood, that took time to rebuild, one respectful conversation at a time.